Hello, kids. Welcome in, one and all. Happy Monday. Hope everyone's doing well. It is 12:06. My name is Matt Murphy, and this conveniently is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm so happy that you've joined us today. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're appreciative. Whether it's, hold on. Had to move my mic around a little bit. Whether it's the full 3 hours or 5 full minutes or whatever time it is, we thank you for your time and consideration today. We'll be here until Brian Wilson in the Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As we try to do every day, allow me to get the pleasantries out of the way, and we'll get the show lumbering under its own weight. So it's Monday, October 7, 2024. Obviously, that is a tragic and fateful anniversary as we are remembering those that lost their lives 1 year ago today in the terrorist attack against our ally, Israel, and our ally, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. At least I'm willing to say that. It does not seem that a presidential candidate is willing to say that, and we'll get into a little bit of that coming up in due time. We also think about Hurricane Helene and the aftermath left behind in North Carolina, in Tennessee, in Georgia, and other parts of the United States of America, primarily in the southern part of the United States of America. We're going to have two separate guests on in that regard. We'll have Steve Antle on, and you might not know Steve's name. If you don't have Steve's number, I do, Bell, and we'll have to he called us last week. I thought I told you, well, one way or the other, we will get him on at 12:35 this afternoon. He is in the belly of the beast, as it were. He is in Fairview, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Asheville, North Carolina. Fairview, if you kind of picture it on the map, Fairview is right between Asheville and Chimney Rock. Now, there have been multiple reports that Chimney Rock was absolutely destroyed, and portions of Chimney Rock was destroyed. But I took a little time over the weekend to try. I could not get there. I was not there, but I did the next best thing, and I found individuals who were on the scene recording live as they were witnessing what was going on the scene. And so we're trying to cut through some of the clutter and the clatter. You've got a government that's willing to lie to you to prop up the liberal Democrats in Washington, D.C. You have a lot of rumor and innuendo going on online. You see that rumor and that innuendo blossom into out-and-out lies online, sadly, and nobody seems to know what the truth is. Here's what I am here to tell you with regard to Hurricane Helene. And I don't know if it's a byproduct of the day and age that we live in, where keyboard warriors go online, or radio warriors go on talk radio, or the government warriors go on talking head shows, and they seem to pretend like they know everything. They seem to pretend as if they know exactly what's going on every single place that has been affected by these storms. And I'm here to tell you they do not. And in some places, I'm certain, and I'm going to say this, and some of you might not want to hear it, but in some places, FEMA has helped people. And in a lot of places, FEMA is absolutely absent. And in some places, FEMA is assisting people in a way that is literally saving lives. And in some places, people haven't gotten the help they need. In some places, FEMA has become a hindrance. In some places, they're not. This is a huge story. And it does not fit into boxes in the way that I've witnessed over the last 3 days. People try to fit it into a political box. And I understand government is not the answer. We have a larger question to ask ourselves, and we have a larger discussion to have about why we have a FEMA at all. And would that money not be better served staying in the local communities that can understand how best to use it in times of natural disaster or crisis? But now's not the time to have that conversation, because that's not the system that we currently have. And so we have to work with the system that we currently have. And it is a system that was set up and designed to be slow and cumbersome and fail and fail and fail again. And we're watching it fail in a lot of ways in real time. That doesn't mean that the men and women on the ground aren't trying to do their best. I have no doubt that the local authorities, that the local sheriff's department, that the local volunteers, that the local churches, they're all trying to do their best. And I have no doubt that there are FEMA employees that are on the ground trying to do their best. These aren't bad human beings. They're part of a bad organization that sadly is designed to not do the job that it needs to do right now because of the nature of its existence. It is too heavy. It is too slow. It is too cumbersome. It is too fraught with regulation. It is too fraught with red tape in order to accomplish the things that we need to be accomplished in the swiftest manner possible. We will attempt to cut through all of the nonsense and get you to the truth of it by getting to the ground. And so we will talk with Steve Antle, or Antle, I think it is, at 12:35 this afternoon. And we will speak with Jeremy Faison. Representative Faison is in Cocke County. He represents Cocke County in some of the hardest hit areas in Middle Tennessee, or rather, I should say, in East Tennessee. And he will join us at 1:05 this afternoon. Your calls, obviously, as well. We will remember a year ago today, October 7th, 2023. We will talk about weekend activities. I was not here Friday, so I appreciate Cameron Smith filling in for me on Friday. We'll talk about Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, the triumphant return. Elon Musk was there with him. This guy is set, man. Let me tell you, if everything goes well over the next 30 days, we are set up for an American resurgence. And I think Donald Trump learned from his first term to the point where he now knows the entities that he cannot trust in Washington, D.C., and he knows how to tackle those entities. And when you've got Elon Musk as an efficiency manager and RFK set up as a health and human services czar or whatever you want to call it, I mean, I'm excited in a lot of ways about the second Trump presidency. And so we're anticipating that as well. Hold on as I signpost here. We'll talk about the dock worker delay. It was not a solution to the dock worker problem. They kicked the can down the road to try to save the Democrats. We're going to talk about FEMA and disaster relief money. Do all of those things over the course of the afternoon. Campaign 2024 in general. Tim Walz actually did an appearance on what he would consider to be enemy territory on Fox News Sunday. We'll talk about that as well. But before we do any of those things, there's Bell K behind the glass. Hey, Bill.
Cameron told a story on Friday about, I think it had to do with the tornadoes in Alabama, about trying to go in, and it could have been somewhere else, but about trying to go in and help, and FEMA stopping people because they had to inspect, safety equipment and what kind of tools it's like people are literally dying.
It happened to me.
People are literally dying. People are literally... They have no electricity. They don't no running water. And FEMA's like, well, we need to look at your gear first. It's like, shut up and get out of the way.
It is the definition. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is the definition of turning the perfect into the enemy of the good. That I'm coming in and I'm trying to do good. Am I perfect? No. Am I going to save everyone? No. Am I going to hit every home? No. Am I going to make everything right? No. In small situations or in small circumstances or small examples, might somebody go in and do something that is but overall the help is good, and FEMA just turns that good away with regularity. Now, that said, Chimney Rock has not been taken over. I watched a video and I communicated with the guy that was doing this video, and he went in on his own. He was allowed to walk in. He walked in for a mile and a half into Chimney Rock. He was going, I guess, he was coming from Asheville, I believe, and he went past Bat Cave and got to Chimney Rock. He videoed Chimney Rock, which is where I saw a lot of the video, and saw that much of the old town is still there. Some of it has washed away, but it is not, we're not stacking body bags over there. They're not hiding dead people. And suggesting that is happening, it makes it harder for me to do my job to tell you the bad things that FEMA is actually doing. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
It's also, the way he explained it was almost like the perfect example of Reagan when he said, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. No, you're from the government and you're here to get in the way of the help.
The only thing that FEMA is good for is money, in my opinion. Everything else can be better handled by volunteerism and people on the ground and local and state authorities.
Yeah, the more local, the better.
And the money that FEMA gets, the reason that FEMA has so much money to hand out is because they're borrowing against the future of this country. They're not even borrowing it against our grandchildren anymore. They're borrowing it against the life cycle of the United States of America. Y'all know that, right? Every amount of money that we add to our federal debt, it might not impact you. It might not impact Bell or Ken Weaver back in the newsroom, but it's going to impact this country at some point. And what we're doing is borrowing against the life of the United States of America. And the reason that FEMA has the ability to walk into a situation and cut a check, $750 meager as it may be, and it's my understanding if you have insurance, they won't even cut you that, is because they borrow against the good faith and credit of the United States of America. We don't actually have that money. So
buying votes is expensive.
Well, buying votes, yeah, that's right. So this is a discussion that needs to be had as to whether or not this is the best way to handle these situations. The political left want you to believe that the government's the only entity that's able to do it, while in real time we watch where the government impedes the ability for neighbors to help neighbors in real time because it's not perfect, or it's not the government that's going to get the credit for it. But there's a lot of, so all of it's true. Here's what I want you to know. Here's how I want to start the show. That if you are reading stuff on the internet, I don't suggest that you disbelieve any of it or believe any of it. And sadly, we are siloing ourselves to the point where there are some people that believe that there is no authority presence, there's no TEMA presence. I mean, and I know, look, I try to further information from sources that I trust. And I posted something on Friday that got a lot of people upset at me. And if you are a follower of my social media platforms, you might know that I had a Tennessee state legislator contact me and give me information and gave me a direct quote, and I posted that quote. And I asked this legislator, and he corroborated it with another. So there were two separate Tennessee legislators that corroborated the information, eyeballs on the ground, looking at what they claim to be looking at. And I posted the quote, and I got destroyed by politicians. And I had to tell several politicians on Friday that I am not interested in helping politicians. I am not interested in protecting the government. I'm interested in helping the people of the state of Tennessee.
I follow you, but I didn't see this. What was the information?
Well, you can see it. I mean, I posted it on Twitter. It was an anecdotal piece of information about FEMA and TEMA and whether or not they were on the ground helping individuals. I mean, it's up. You can see it. Unless Twitter pulled it down.
I'm looking for it now.
Here, I don't want to misquote it because it was not these were not my words. These were the words of a lot of Alabama football stuff. We'll get into that in a moment. I won't be able to help some of that. Here it is. From a Tennessee state legislator. This was 10-4 at 4:45 in the afternoon. So that was Friday afternoon. And this is a direct quote. Good morning. From what I learned last night, FEMA has come in and will not allow any association with religious groups. This is Joe Biden's bureaucratic agency doing this. The Red Cross is there and so is Salvation Army, but they're allowed because they claim to be agnostic. I know of some church groups who've sent truckloads of supplies to have them rejected. Now churches in those areas are asking other congregations to send money instead of tangible objects. If you really want to get going, from my understanding, TEMA has done basically nothing. They're just a pass-through of information for FEMA. And I said, sad to hear, why are they turning these groups away? So I had a lot of pushback. Now, I don't disbelieve. Now, let me explain to you what I'm saying. I don't disbelieve the individuals that gave me this information, and I would not have posted it if I did not trust my sources. I am choosing not to name those two legislators because they would face retaliation from other people on Capitol Hill in Nashville. And I know that because I've been told that by those people because they're not very happy. At the same time, that does not mean that TEMA is not doing good work in other areas. That does not mean that these church groups are not getting and receiving donations and dispersing those donations. I do not believe that this type of activity is widespread. But just because I don't believe that type of activity is widespread doesn't mean that it's not happening in pockets of Tennessee or in pockets of North Carolina. I have experienced it firsthand, and I have no doubt that it's going on now. And, Bell, you made reference to it. In the state of Alabama, I stood in front of my truck and was told that I was not allowed to go further into a situation because I did not have the proper credentials in order to get to that situation. And I had told someone that I was going to come help them cut down trees. And it was a FEMA representative that told me that. And I had to turn around and go away.
Under threat of arrest, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously. I mean, that's what they do, right? So some of it, all of it's true and none of it's true. And it's very, very difficult to get valuable information when you're not talking to people on the ground, which is why we're going to talk to people on the ground later on today, in the form of Steve Antle, who still, I mean, obviously they still don't have power in most of these portions of the country that we've been talking about that were popped almost 2 weeks ago now. We will continue. The death toll, by the way, last count that I saw was 227. Ken Weaver's in the newsroom. He's going to continue to update us on all of this as well. We're going to get to Ken in a moment because before I get to some of this more serious matters, some of this more serious stuff, I have to ask Ken a very important question. It's episode 666. That's right. We have to get it and get it out of the way, right? 666 today. We got 29 days to go before the election. It's Locks for Trump Day 219 on the Matt Murphy Show. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You need to protect your valuables, folks, from threat of theft or fire. And in doing so, I would encourage you to get over to the Safe House and see the incredible selection. They have more safes than you could possibly imagine. I mean, truly, you'll walk through the showroom and you start counting them up and you'll get to about 200 before you get to the end. And then when you find out that they have almost 400 more safes in their warehouses outside of the showroom safes, I mean, it's an incredible selection, better than anything else in the Southeast. Why? So you ask, well, why do they have so many safes? One, timeliness. You can find the safe that you're looking for, the fire rating that you're looking for, the brand that you're looking for right there in stock. You don't have to wait for it to come in on a truck. And they can get it delivered to you immediately with their professional delivery crew. They don't hire that out. Number two, price point. They have a price point for every budget at Nashville Safe House. And you just go in and you'll see. They've got all manner of brands, all manner of makes and models, and you will love these safes. Plus, remember that gun safes are sales tax free at Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com or across the street from City Cemetery on 4th Avenue South. And when you walk in and say hello to Mark and the team, remind them that Matt Murphy sent you to Nashville Safe House. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spice and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and with all of the water coming down recently with hurricanes over in east of Tennessee and in western North Carolina, I mean, these things are very serious matters, but it's always serious if you have a waterproofing issue within your home. USS understands this because they've been doing it for a long, long time. For over 30 years now, USS has helped over 25,000 satisfied customers. Customers just like you that were concerned perhaps that they had a waterproofing issue. Waterproofing issues become foundation issues because they eliminate or damage or degrade the foundation in your home. And that's, I mean, obviously they're causing health problems immediately. When you smell musty smells or moldy smells, you're not supposed to smell that. That's going to get airborne eventually, and it's going to cause you a health issue. So if you're smelling that or if you're noticing the telltale signs, doors sticking, windows sticking, whatnot, you need to go ahead and call the experts. Call USS. I promise you they can help you with all of your waterproofing and foundation needs. Call 615-488-7855, 488-7855.
Metro Police say they've identified a man they want to question about that deadly hit and run that took the life of a Nashville fifth grader over the weekend. This and more coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Here's the question, Ken Weaver.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned, by the way, good afternoon.
Good afternoon there, Brother Murphy. You too, Brother Bilal.
You mentioned Metro Police.
Yes, sir.
And they've identified somebody that they're looking for.
Yes.
Have they identified the goalpost in the Cumberland River? That's what I want to know. Have they identified those? They got them out.
I think they got them out right after the fact, didn't
I think they did, too. We got a lot of serious things going on, but I need to spend 2 minutes with Ken Weaver.
All right.
Ken Weaver, did you watch? I couldn't even get out. Hold up.
Yeah.
Stop. Did you watch any football this weekend?
I watched a lot of football.
Glory, glory to old Vandy. Glory, glory to old Vandy. To hell with the Crimson Tide. Yeah! That's for you, Vandy fans. You know, I heard it said many years ago, Ken.
Yeah.
Because somebody put it this way, and it was, what's his name? Marty, it's McGee, Ryan McGee of Marty and McGee.
Yeah.
Said there's something special about being a football fan and loving a football team so much that never loves you back. And he was talking about Mississippi State and Vandy and some of these other programs that every year you go into that season and you know that it's going to be another long, hard season, but you still love that team. And you've never had a moment like that, buddy.
No, I've never had a moment like that. Vanderbilt fans were, watching on TV, they were on cloud nine. I don't think they thought this was possible.
No.
But I got to say, starting out this year, from the get-go, I think Vanderbilt's been playing some good football.
I think Vanderbilt is an example of what NIL is going to do to college football in that it takes teams that have never had the ability to get recruits, and it gives them the ability to do things to plug holes to be better.
Yeah.
And, I
think they got a good coach, too. I
Yeah.
think he called a really good game, man.
Well, it's just we're living in a different world. We're living in a world where these things happen, and congratulations to the Vanderbilt Commodores. If you're a fan, if you need it, I mean, look, maybe you're a fan, you're living over in East Tennessee, and you're going through it, and you're having a rough go of it, and you needed a little respite from the real world. If we needed a respite from the real world, we got it on Saturday night. It was incredible.
Yeah,
just absolutely incredible.
Except in Fayetteville.
Except I would like to note to all of you Tennessee Volunteer fans that I didn't bring that up.
Well, I brought that up because I wanted to say to my fellow Hogs fans out there, next time you're celebrating on the field, don't celebrate amongst the opposing team's offensive line.
Did you see that guy get pushed up?
Those are big boys.
And they're upset.
They're not happy like you are.
They're upset, and they have the right to the field. You don't have the right of way.
No, sir.
They're a little frustrated, and they're large human beings, and they are willing to push you down by the face.
They do it for a living. And
that's true.
They
Man.
Yeah, that couple of Hogs fans, they met that turf real fast.
It's who's Tennessee playing
there
this week?
might still be some teeth there at Reynolds Stadium.
Who's Tennessee playing this week?
Tennessee, who do they have? I don't know.
Oh, I do.
Oh,
I do. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later the week. Right now, Ken's got news to do. It's 12:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Checking traffic, I see there's a bit of slow go in Sumner County. Not really, don't know why, but 65 southbound between Bethel Road and Louisville Highway is bumper to bumper there at times, about a 4-minute delay. Then in Rutherford County, you've got some milling and paving blocking the right lane of 840 westbound. That's between the Rutherford-Wilson County line and Bill France Boulevard. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Metro Police have announced a break in the case of that hit-and-run crash that killed a Nashville fifth grader. Police say a tip led to this morning's recovery of the Nissan Sentra, believed to be the suspect vehicle. Police are looking for a man by the name of Daneri Varela for questioning. 10-year-old Emily Sanchez Ramirez died Sunday. Her mother is still in critical condition. They were riding on an electric scooter when they were hit head-on by a vehicle, and police say they think they have identified who was driving. Middle East update. Israel says it will soon launch operations on Lebanon's southern coast, and they're warning residents, stay off the beaches. Hurricane Milton has reached Cat 5 status, but may weaken to a Cat 4 or Cat 3 by the time it makes landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. But Cat 4 or Cat 3 is no picnic, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis this morning updating residents says he's very worried about debris left over from Hurricane Helene.
My executive order requires debris landfill and dump sites to remain open 24/7 to accept debris from Hurricane Helene. We need as much of this debris picked up as possible. This creates a safety hazard, and it also will increase the damage that Milton could do with flying debris.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Want to thank the incredible people over at the Glock store for everything that they do for the listening audience of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. To include this incredible, we had the great debate watch party brought to you by the Glock store. But now, as we roll into October, it's no surprise that I'm talking again about my friends at the Glock store. There's a good reason. There's always something fun to do at the Glock store, and I want to tell you about something they've got going on all October. They're having their own version of a spook house, only it is a shoot house. Get it? Instead of a spook house or a haunted house, it is a shoot house, and it's a lot of fun, and you just might win a $1,000 custom Glock for being the best shot of the month. It only costs $30 to run the course. That includes 20 rounds of ammo, and just to make it a level playing field, everyone will use the same model Glock handgun, which is also included in the price. So for $30, you get to run the course. You get the ammo to run the course, and you get to potentially win a $1,000 customized Glock. To make it a bit more convenient, Glock Store is now open until 7 on Fridays and Saturdays. The Glock Store, minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. Find out more at GlockStore.com. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly. who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
$12:38, coming up at 1:05, Representative Jeremy Faison will join us to talk about Cocke County and his district and everything else going on in eastern Tennessee. Right now, we turn our attention to the aftermath of Hurricane Helene over the weekend. The death toll last I saw, and obviously this is a fluid number, rose to 227. The question is whether or not FEMA is helping or hurting the cause. They are obviously slow. As we discussed in the first segment, that is the nature of the existence of the organization. But some are suggesting that FEMA seems to be unprepared for this moment in time. Both of those things can be true at the same time. FEMA can be helping in some situations and hurting in other situations. Obviously, the local community organizations, the charitable organizations have done an incredible job all across the affected area. The federal government, maybe not so much. Don't necessarily believe the rumors that you hear online, which is why we're trying to get as close to the situation as possible. We were blessed to be joined last week. Steve Antle called us, and he is from Fairview, North Carolina, or lives in Fairview, North Carolina. He has I think he has a base. He told me this story, and I've forgotten the details, but he has a base here in Nashville, or has been in Nashville. So he made the decision to make us a priority to call to try to get some truth from ground level. Fairview, for those who don't know, is between Chimney Rock and Asheville. It's a suburb of Asheville. And Steve joins us on the Murphy Show hotline today to give us an update on everything that's going on. Steve Antle joins us on the Matt Murphy Show. Steve, good afternoon. I hope you're well.
I'm doing okay today, staying busy.
I bet you are. Just give us an update since we last talked about what's going on in your field of vision there in Fairview.
I've got a lot of information, and I wrote some notes, and if I get wound up, just slow me down, okay?
No, man, you're good. You're good.
So, I spent 20 years as a Metro Nashville police officer. I started out my career here in Asheville, North Carolina, then I went to Nashville, and then I moved back here a couple of years ago. So, but I spent the bulk of the last 20-something years in Nashville, Tennessee. I want to thank you and your listeners so much. When we did the first interview and the Venmo information went out, I've had over $3,500 come in, and I wanted to tell a little bit about what that money's being spent for and how myself and my family are using these funds and what we're doing. First, I want to give you an overview of the situation now here in Fairview. So they are, at any time between now and the next couple of days, they're going to probably switch from search and rescue mode to recovery mode. What that means for our community is a good thing and a bad thing. The bad part is that means that the 100-plus people that are on their missing list that they are looking for are most likely going to be presumed dead. So we would expect the death count to climb dramatically once they do that. The good part about the switchover, though, is that we will be able to go directly into the affected areas, which are still roadblocked off. And the reason they've got that area blocked off is because they do not want anything to disturb the dog scents. They are running grids over all of that area, and it's about a 20-square-mile area. And they have it gridded off, and they are going over and over and over with the dogs trying to, find deceased people. I will go ahead and go out on the limb and say that I will probably guess that the bulk of the people that are on that missing list, if they haven't been located by now, are probably deceased. So they are continuing that effort. They are switching out crews today. They are taking other crews are coming in and replacing the other ones that are burned out, both the dogs' noses and the people. So we have a new set of teams that are up there today. We are still taking in supplies. We're starting to store supplies for 3, 4, or 5 weeks down the road. We are starting to store supplies for cold weather that is not here yet, but will be coming. In our area, we still have no power, water, or cell, but the power companies and the cell are trying mightily to try and get everything back online. The water is going to be a long-term problem. They're saying they can't even give us an estimate. So with that all said, I wanted to give you a brief overview of what we're doing. And I say we, I mean myself, my family, my immediate family, and our church. So what I'm doing is, if you think about this in terms of a military operation, we have forward operating bases. Those are Spring Mountain Community Center and the Fairview Volunteer Fire Department. Those are the bases that are closest to that sealed off, devastated area, and they are also closest to the people that may not be in that sealed off area but are coming down out of the mountains and needing supplies. So then we have our rear operating bases, which are our church, which is about 20 miles away, Fellowship Baptist Church in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And we also have a couple of other large churches in the area that are also doing the same thing we are, but on a larger scale. They have forklifts and they have the ability to unload tractor trailers and so forth. And so what I do every day, I start out, I leave my house, I go to the forward operating bases, I ask them what list of things they need for that specific day. And I spend my day operating between the forward and the rear. I get the list, I go to the back rear bases, I check and get what I can for the lists from those. If it's something that I can't find at any of the rear operating bases, the donation bases, then I go directly to the stores and I buy the stuff with the money that's being donated. I'm also doing gasoline supplies back and forth every day to the forward operating bases, so I pick up their empties. When I come to town, I fill them up, and when I go back in the afternoon, I drop the gas off. A lot of unusual things that we're running into, and I'll just give you a few examples. Bees. So that I had a request from both forward operating bases. We got a bee problem. We got a yellow jacket problem because they've been displaced. Their nests have been displaced by all of this. So they're running into these swarms. So I had to quickly find as many cans of that as possible. The shoes for our fire department and our search and rescue people are wearing out. Yesterday I went and bought 8 pair at Walmart of work boots. They had some boots that had been donated earlier in the day, but they were the wrong sizes. They were too small. So they needed like 11, 12, and 13. So I went and bought those. Another odd request, they needed the little propane camp stove tanks. I was going to buy them, but I have a network of people that are bringing supplies up, and I had another balloon guy, hot air balloon pilot, that's been helping us, Roger Clark out of Greenville. He says, I can lay my hands on 120 of those. And within the day, those were moved from an hour away to our church, and within another hour or two, I had those at the forward operating bases. So these are the kinds of things we're constantly putting out fires, and we're trying to do it immediately. So the help that your people, and I say your people, but friends of mine too that are donating through Venmo, just allows me to just on the spot, day after day, get help directly to the very front line, bypassing all of the bureaucracy that goes on with these other, agencies. Am I going too fast?
No, Steve, you're providing incredible frontline information. I mean, just whatever you've got, I don't want to get in your way. I've got questions, but I don't want to get in your way.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about our out-of-state. So in addition to operating in the way that I just described to you, as I'm driving and as I'm within cell service, I'm also coordinating shipments from out of state that are coming here. I have a network of hot air balloon people. I have a network of friends in Middle Tennessee that have trucks and trailers. They all want to help, but they need to know where to go. So what I'm doing is I'm coordinating those shipments coming in from South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee to our church, or to, if it's like tomorrow, I got 2 tractor trailer loads coming in and we can't unload them at our church. So I'm diverting them over to the the Anchor Church in Hendersonville, and they have forklifts and pallet jacks and so forth. And then we can move the stuff from there to our church and then onward to the front line part. But I'm on the phone and text constantly all day long with all these friends. I needed if I don't give them a shout out, I got Roger Clark out of Greenville, South Carolina. I got Aviation Ranch, Tom Warren and his wife out of Cordele, Georgia. I got Luke Van Camp, who's a balloonist out of Tallahassee, Florida. He's here right now at this moment unloading an entire flatbed tractor trailer at the church. They're bringing generators, they're bringing very specific things that I need on a day-to-day basis. And I got Charlie Ray Howell out of Mount Pleasant, Tennessee. He's bringing his racing car carrier, a 48-foot trailer. They've been taking donations in Mount Pleasant and Columbia, where I used to live, and they're bringing that stuff here this week.
Let me ask you this, and our guest is Steve Antle. He lives in Fairview. He was in Nashville for 20 plus years or thereabouts as a Metro Nashville police officer. He's now are you quote unquote retired, Steve? Is that a fair?
I am retired, and now I deliver for Amazon and Instacart. Okay. That's all I do, and I ride these roads normal.
And he's just giving us an on-the-ground report as to what exactly is happening there. So you described at the beginning the no-go zones and explain again, because there are people that are suggesting that the feds are setting up perimeters and they're not allowing people to go back to their houses. Have you experienced that?
All right, I can speak to directly what I know here in Buncombe County that I've encountered. So there are still areas that they don't want people to go. There are still homes that they don't want people to go back to, but that is because of structural danger and or utility damage and or the difficulty of accessing the property safely. They don't want more people getting hurt. The area in Fairview is still sealed off, like I said, because they're still actively searching for bodies, and they don't want anybody going up in there. There are authorized family members that they are letting through the checkpoint each day, but they have those family members have specific instructions they have to follow.
Real quick, we've also gotten reports, and I need to get these out because you're the man that knows. Yep. We're getting reports that donations coming from churches, donations coming from, quote, non-approved places are not being accepted, that FEMA's turning them away. Have you found any of that to be true?
That is not true to my knowledge at all. Okay. We have complete freedom of movement. I hear all the time people saying, don't come to Western North Carolina, don't come, don't bring stuff. That is not true. People are bringing stuff every day. My people are bringing stuff every day. There are no checkpoints or road checks or any of that. If you have stuff and you want to donate, the only thing we're asking and the authorities are asking, is that you coordinate ahead of time with specific people and or organizations here on the ground. We want you to come in. We want you to drop the stuff off at the designated spot that you have selected, and then we want you to leave. Unless you're like a nurse or something and you want to stay and do volunteer work. So, no, that part's not true. Going along some of these rumors, okay, the FEMA $750 stuff. Okay, I submitted my FEMA claim, and I submitted it in 4 different categories. I was immediately put as eligible and have already received the funds for the $750. They categorize that as miscellaneous. And they're giving that out as just an immediate help just to get you through whatever's directly in front of you. The other categories on my application are still listed as pending. I don't know what that means, and I don't know how long that takes. So that part is actually, as far as it is true, that's all they're giving out right now. But I have a feeling there's going to be more on the back end. What else? The restrictions on private helicopter operators, that has been an issue. And I know people in the aviation community, and one of the stories went national about how a guy rescued a couple out in Lake Lure and got threatened with arrest over it. That actually was not FEMA that did that. That was the local fire assistant chief. And he, to my knowledge, has been terminated.
Wait. I don't want to gloss over that because that was a big story. So the suggestion was that there was a helicopter pilot that was trying to do good work, and for some reason the assistant fire chief decided that he was going to put a stop to it and wouldn't let him go back to get another person, according to the helicopter pilot. And you're saying that person has been relieved of their duties. That's
what I heard this morning.
Okay. But it was a local guy. It's a kind of a one-off.
It was a guy that came in, and he had actually gotten permission from the FAA office out of Statesville, North Carolina, and they had basically, the people there at that command post had told him, do whatever you got to do to help people. Well, he went out here, and he went to Lake Lure, and he saw the woman. He picked her up. He took her and dropped her off at the Lake Lure headquarters. And he was going to go back and get the husband because he couldn't carry both of them.
Right.
And when he got ready to go back and told him, I'm going to go get this guy, I'll be right back, they told him, no, you're not. You can't leave. You can't go up there. And if you do, you'll be arrested. Well, the guy left. He loaded his son. The pilot had his son. He took him, and they went back, and they actually landed at the people's house again. But he had to tell the guy, I can't get you. I can't pick you up. And he actually had to leave the guy there. And so the guy ended up getting rescued, but the Lake Lure Fire and Rescue and the out-of-state units actually had to go get him, and they had to cross a river, and it was all a lot of unnecessary rescue stuff that went on.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, I don't know the guy the assistant fire chief that made the decision, but it's unfortunate. I'm sure he regrets it more than anybody. I would hope that he regrets the decision that he made in that moment more than anyone. Steve, I'm desperately short on time. But I need you to get your information out because so many people need it. They want to know where your church is in Hendersonville so they can give to your church, so they can funnel that over to you, and then give out your Venmo again because I trust Steve Antle. I trust that he's doing God's work right now. He's an angel among us, and I know you wouldn't say that, Steve, but I will. So we need to get money as close to the ground as we possibly can. So give out your information, Steve.
The Venmo is at Steve, STEVE, hyphen, or dash mark, Antle, A-N as in November, T as in Tom, L as in Lincoln, E as in Edward. That's Steve hyphen Antle. I don't remember what picture. It's got me. It's a picture of me from San Diego, so I got the ocean behind me. The church is Fellowship Baptist Church in Hendersonville, North Carolina. It's 2231 Howard Gap Road, Hendersonville, North Carolina. And I will go ahead. Please don't blow my phone up, but I will give my phone number out if you need something immediate. 619-902-5600. 1860. But again, only call me if it's dire and it's specific and it's something that I can answer, because I got a lot of other people I'm having to communicate with. I just, I can't thank you enough. When this started, I didn't really know what niche I was going to fall into. I just knew that I wanted to do something. And I was so upset and desperate that day.
I'm so glad I feel blessed you called me. I feel blessed you called me. So, Steve,
I've listened to you since the beginning. Since you came to Nashville. So,
well, can you and I talk? Are you in a communication place every day? I mean, are you in a place where there's cell service every day? I mean, I would just like to get an update on a daily basis, if that's not too much to ask of you.
I'm in and out of cell service, but I will call your other number that I have, and I will give you an
Hit me
update.
up. Just text or call me. Yeah.
You can follow my Facebook, because I post every single day on what we're doing.
And we are, and we're trying to repost that as much as we possibly can. But Steve, God bless you, and just hug on your friends and neighbors and tell them we're loving on them from Nashville. Okay.
Thank you so much,
yes,
Matt.
Sir.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
all your help. There's no words that can express it. Thank you.
No, thank you. I'm not doing anything. Steve Antle is doing the God's work. That is an angel living among us, and he is taking his experience as a law enforcement man in Nashville and utilizing that experience to help people in the affected zone. So I know we're incredibly late, and I apologize to Ken. I apologize to everybody. I just could not suspend that conversation without getting the necessary information out there. It's 57 after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy, and let's talk for a moment about Craft Body Scan. It is big goings on at Craft Body Scan for the entire month of October. Our friends at Craft are celebrating 7 incredible years of helping people take control of their health. And to celebrate their anniversary, they're giving you the gift, $700 off full body scans. It's an amazing opportunity, not just for huge savings, but to see your health clearly. Now, a full body scan is more than just a heart and lung scan. It can help you spot potential health risks early all over your body. It's fast. It's non-invasive. The scan keys on areas like your chest, your stomach area, your pelvis, evaluating heart and lung health, of course, bone density, and much, much more. Your health is worth seeing clearly. I've done this, guys. And it is an incredible, modern, technological way of making sure that everything is clear inside of your body. Celebrate Craft Body Scan's 7 years of wellness with $700 off this life-changing scan. Don't wait. Your health deserves it. Book today at craftbodyscan.com. That's craft with a C, bodyscan.com, or 615-436-1000. 615-436-1000.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got a crash, and it's not where you want a crash to be because it's already slow due to construction. We're talking about the South Loop downtown going westbound there at I-65. It is blocking the left lane. Metro Police have identified who they think was driving the suspect vehicle in a deadly hit-and-run crash over the weekend that killed a fifth grader. 10-year-old Emily Sanchez Ramirez died. Her mother is in critical condition. They were on an electric scooter when they were hit head-on. Police say a tip led to this morning's recovery of that Nissan Sentra believed to be the suspect vehicle. Police are now looking for a man by the name of Daneri Varela for questioning. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Everything Paul Winkler is doing, he's doing for you. And I want to give you another example of that. I sat down with Paul recently, and we had a conversation about annuities. And Paul explained to me a couple of things because people hear about these annuities, specifically deferred annuities. And sadly, a lot of the people selling these products, they're selling a really good game, boy. Oh, it sounds good, but they're almost never used, according to Paul, for the purpose that they were designed, which is paying out a lifetime income. This gets tricky. Advisors sell the stuff and touts features like these as a reason to buy it. Don't use it for that purpose in the aftermath. It is technically called an immediate annuity. And that just confuses the mess out of people. And Paul tries to cut through that clutter and say he never recommends the ones that these other advisors are recommending because it sounds too good to be true because it is too good to be true. Do not get duped by deferred annuities. It's so important to mention that the commissions that get paid on deferred annuities get paid right now. And Paul would not advise you in this way. This is just one other example of how I believe in the Paul Winkler way, how he educates you primarily first and foremost to make sure that everything that he does you understand fully. 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com for more information. That's paulwinkler.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy radio show underway. Busy Monday already, and we have two more hours to go. We will get into the anniversary that this is. It is the anniversary of a very, very tragic day worldwide. I mean, truly, the 9/11 of Israel happened on this day 1 year ago. And just imagine for a moment, 1 year into 9/11, people in the United States of America doing some of the things that we're seeing happening on this day, on the anniversary of such a tragic day, a day filled with the murder of innocent individuals in the state of Israel. That is coming up a little bit later on in the show. Donald Trump was in Butler, Pennsylvania. Speaking of attempted murder in this case, there was an attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was back with Elon Musk, and oh man, that crowd was incredible. We'll talk about that today. Primarily, we were beginning the show regarding Hurricane Helene, though, in the aftermath, 227 dead. And you heard Steve Antle there, who stated that they're about to move in North Carolina, in his pocket of North Carolina in Fairview, from they're still rescue and recovery mode, right? We're rescue and recovery mode. And then you move from that to cleanup and recovery. But rescue operations are still considered to be going on. So that indicates that there is hope that they will find survivors. Once they switch to recovery mode, along with that comes a transition from those who are considered missing to missing and presumed dead. And when that happens, you're going to see a death total jump from 227, which is the last figure that I saw, to probably well into the 300s, because according to Steve Antle over in Fairview, already there are still 100 people missing thereabouts in that part of the world. I'm certain that there are others in Georgia, and I'm certain there are others in East Tennessee. Speaking of East Tennessee, as we continue our coverage of the events of Hurricane Helene, and particularly the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, we are pleased to be joined by Representative Jeremy Faison, who's doing great work for his district and for the entire region of the people of the Eastern Tennessee region that was affected so greatly by this storm. And he joins us via cell phone today to talk about the continued efforts. Representative, thank you so much for being on with us. Good afternoon.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me. Honored to be with you.
Well, just give us, I know you and I have not had an opportunity to speak. I know you're working with state officials. You're working with anybody that's going to help you in that region of the world trying to get relief to your constituents. You're on the ground. Just tell us what you're seeing and what you have experienced, Jeremy.
So I'll tell you this. There were countless tragedies that took place over a 24-hour period that wreaked havoc in people's lives, people's properties. It was devastating. But I will tell you this. The love that's poured in afterwards has been greater than the hurricane and that storm that happened. It has been an absolute beautiful thing to watch. My people are still hurting. I had a town hall last night. I got to talk with some of my friends that have lost everything. A little lady walked up to me, started crying. She said, "Jeremy, you can't even see where my house used to be." Total devastation for some people. But I will say this, Tennessee has showed up. People from all around America have showed up. And I've seen, sometimes when you're in politics, it's harder to find the goodness of humanity. Man, I've seen the goodness of humanity. Yeah. And, of course, I've seen some of the ugly of humanity, too, through this. But It's been rough. Being without water for 8 days is one of the most trying things you've ever done at your house. You know, I started crying when I woke up and we had a little bit of water coming through our sink and I could actually flush the toilet or turn on the water. It brought tears to my eyes.
I bet.
I'll send you a picture, Brian. I literally had an ice chest filled up with water beside my commode and a pot that I would dip the water out of the ice chest and put it in the back of the commode so we could flush. It just little things like that. You know, you don't realize that. But here's the deal. I had a house. I had a commode that I could actually do that. I have constituents that don't have that now. So here's what I learned. Nobody ever in East Tennessee has ever experienced anything like this. So it's almost like we're navigating. If you live in a low-lying area, you've experienced flood before. If you live around Florida, even in Nashville, y'all have experienced flood. You knew the river could flood. But up in the mountains, nobody had a clue. We're talking things way past the 100-year floodplain got wiped out. Houses are gone that were sitting way above a 100-year floodplain that never anybody ever thought in a million years could be hit. They were hit. So we're navigating water, no pun intended, that we've never navigated before.
What there have been a lot of rumors, and obviously I try to pull back and suggest that multiple things can be happening simultaneously in a situation like this. It's so large. I mean, we're going from the coast of Florida all the way through Georgia, up into North Carolina, up into East Tennessee. Of course, there are going to be places where the relief efforts are going better than others. There are going to be stories that might be true that do not represent the widespread help that many people are getting. And so I'm trying to cut through some of that without, diminishing anyone's individual story. Let me get from you, Jeremy, because you're not only on the ground every single day going through this as a survivor of it and as a helper, but you're also a representative. What has been your experience about the help coming in? What is happening on the positive side of things, and anything that you want to focus on from a negative perspective?
So, first of all, I will say this. I can't speak for what took place in North Carolina with FEMA or Georgia with FEMA, and I've heard some real horror stories. My son has been in North Carolina, and he saw some stuff from people posing to be FEMA or were FEMA that were pretty bad and egregious. But I'll say this, in my state, under Patrick Sheehan's leadership, we've not had an issue with FEMA. Anybody who's told us stories, we've never been able to quantify those stories and find out that they were actually true. So I'll say from the THP, from TEMA to the THP to the TWRA, I could not be more proud of Tennessee and more proud of those groups of people. They have and our National Guard. There's a story going to come out. I'm hopefully going to do a Facebook Live with these guys. They were on their way to that hospital up in Unicoi, some of our National Guardsmen, and their truck got washed away. They kicked out the window of their truck, got on a debris pile, floated to shore, and still aided in those people coming off the roof. Wow. Those are the stories that I want people to know about that have happened in Tennessee. And I don't want to diminish somebody's story in North Carolina or Georgia because I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Right. But as far as my state is concerned, the TWRA, the THP, and TEMA and our National Guard are freaking heroes, and they need to be loved and praised for the job that they've done here.
Jeremy, what is needed in Cocke County? What's needed in Hamlin and Jefferson and the surrounding communities that your fellow representatives are working so hard to clean up? What do you need most from those of us in Middle Tennessee?
So I'm so glad you asked that. We have had this massive outpouring of love. People have shipped us stuff from all over the world that are temporary and emergency needs, helping us right now. This is a long haul. This is a marathon to get us back in East Tennessee, these 8 counties, back to where they're operating at par. And I just hope that Tennessee will remember that. I hope that when it comes time to rebuild, that we'll see people show up and say, you know what, I know how to put sheetrock up. You know what, I know how to do plumbing. I know how to do and just be willing to come up and still help. We're still kind of we've just now got all the roads open. It was so bad that all of my county highway departments, their road stuff got destroyed because they're too close to the river. thankfully, Glenn Jacobs, I called him and asked him to come down to our Cocke County Highway Department. When he saw that all of our stuff got destroyed, he called his chief engineer, and the next day, on Saturday, they came in with bulldozers and track hoes, backhoes, and skid steers and started helping us getting roads undone. We've just now got all of our roads open yesterday so we can get everywhere. But we've got to do the rebuild process. So I hope Tennessean will stay with us and support us in this effort of rebuilding.
You mentioned the roads. We're told that the interstate, 40, going out of Tennessee, and after the 81 split, there's just no real anticipated time for that to get back. Have you spoken to anyone about that, and have you heard anything about it? I know that's a little. I'm thinking, if I'm looking at a map correctly, that might be a little bit south of you, but.
No, that I-40 comes right through my district.
Oh, there you go.
As soon as you come
Through
into
Cocke
Tennessee
okay.
from North, as soon as you come into Tennessee from North Carolina, you get into the 11th House District. So interesting enough, I've been the squeakiest wheel about I-40 that you can imagine. Today, we have the governor will be here in a few minutes. Senator Blackburn will be here. Senator Haggerty will be here. Commissioner Butch Ely will be here, and the minister of the National Administrator of Highways, just underneath Pete Buttigieg, is actually coming here to Cocke County. I'm meeting them at 2:45. We're going out to the area where I-40 has been destroyed. I have been told by Butch Ely that the westbound lane is going to be opened all the way to North Carolina. That will turn it into a 2-lane highway. The westbound lane is still salvageable, and they can work it. So people can get in and out to the first part of North Carolina all the way back into us.
Wow.
That doesn't help us much in North Carolina because it got washed out even worse right across at mile marker 6. It got washed out even worse there. But we've got them all coming today, and my goal is to remind them that this is the main artery for everybody coming from the southeastern hemisphere, coming through Tennessee. This is a main artery. About 40,000 people a day pass through my district on I-40. This is a massive commerce, if you will, that comes through here, and a tax revenue that happens not just for Cocke County, but for all of the state of Tennessee. So we're putting great efforts on it. Within 2 weeks, it'll be open 2-lane into North Carolina. And they're telling me that they're hoping they can do the same thing in North Carolina within about a year, have it 2-lane, and then within 2 years, have it back to a 4-lane.
Representative Jeremy Faison is with us talking about the devastation wrought from Hurricane Helene and the resulting flooding in his district. Jeremy, I know you were working with our good friend Robbie Starbuck regarding Starlinks and trying to get the communication back up and running. How successful has that been, and are you in need of anything anymore in that regard?
You know, that's a great story, and I'll be eternally grateful to Robbie. We end up reaching out to each other and what can he do, and I gave some ideas. He brought me a team of guys that I put my son, who was at ETSU, and ETSU shut down last week. So we put them together because he's used to all these mountain roads. He grew up here, and they started delivering Starlinks to people. I had the privilege and time that I went to a couple of them, and man, when you see somebody and they're able to get on the internet and they haven't talked to anybody in 4 days hardly, and the only way they can get is through radio because everything else is gone, it is amazing the joy that you see in their heart. And I'll just tell you a brief story. We went to a church that a bunch of people had hunkered down during the storm. It's just above the French Broad River, didn't get hit. A lot of people had to be rescued from there. We got out there Wednesday night with a Starlink, and when I pulled up, these little ladies that I've never met, they jumped up off the porch of that front porch of that church and just came and bear hugged me, and they said, "We heard you were going to make it to where we could have internet." And they started crying. They were hugging on me, and they started weeping. I took my wife and my staff. We had a town hall yesterday. I took them out to see all the damage out there in Del Rio. When we got out there, that church parking lot was filled with 50, 60 cars, all sitting out there on their cell phone, being able to connect to people. And that's a direct effort from Elon Musk and Robbie Starbuck, getting that to me and our team. And it brought a lifeline into the middle of chaos. It was a beautiful thing. Additionally, Starbuck, I want to holler him out. He tweeted things we needed. He asked me for something we needed. He would tweet it out, and the next thing you know, Amazon is showing up Walmart is showing up, dropping stuff off. It was so much stuff that came to my local post office that they hired other postmen to come and work in the post office to sort it all for my church. It was, I've never seen anything like it, Brian. It was absolutely amazing.
Jeremy, what else do you need is the question. I mean, what can we do? Obviously, I've encouraged people to give to charitable donations as they can to trusted sources. Or is there anything specific that we can do?
You know, the only thing I would think of specific is if people are listening to this and they are handy with a hammer, they know how to frame, they know how to sheetrock, would you just consider coming over the next few weeks and helping out? It means so much to people when you show up. Last night at that town hall, the colonel of the THP came, Colonel Perry, and my people were just so appreciative that he showed up. So if you have a specialized skill and you think you could be of help, reach out to my office there. We'll put you in contact with some people that you could be a help to moving forward. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's listened, that has given and prayed and been a part of this. We're thankful to you.
Representative Jeremy Faison, thank you so much, Jeremy. We'll talk to you again very soon. Take care, and anything you need, let us know, okay?
Blessings.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate Jeremy stopping by 24 after the, and Jeremy can call me Brian anytime he wants because he's been through a lot. He called me Brian twice. That's okay. Tell Brian he can use that interview and, just roll with it.
Jeremy calls you Brian, and it's fine. I accidentally call you Nancy, and it's a big deal.
Well, it wasn't the name Nancy. It was the fact that you threw me a skirt. It's 24 after the hour on Super Talk.
Well, police have identified a man they want to question about a crash that killed a Nashville fifth grader. And Hurricane Milton upgraded again. These stories and more at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much there, Ken Weaver. Hey, I've gotten a message from Jeremy. He said, hey, I think I called you Brian. I meant Matt. I was like, man, you got so much going on. I do not care what. Just call me and let us know that everything's going all right over there in East Tennessee. That's the big deal, right?
You could have said, thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Appreciate you. Man.
He's got a lot going on, man. And I tell you what, 40,000 people going through Cott County there on I-40. He is right. That is a lot of revenue right there. And it doesn't just help Cott County. It helps everybody in Tennessee.
It helps the entire state.
They got to get that back up and going. I mean, it's not going to be a picnic. I mean, even, just down to one lane, but still, just every little bit helps.
Well, and the idea that they can get a lane going one way and a lane going another way in the next 2 weeks is incredible. And that is according to Eli, well, what's his name?
Butch Ely.
Butch Ely. That's right. Butch Ely. According to Jeremy, through Jeremy, Butch says he can get it up in the next several weeks. And then, getting all of that repaired is going to be a much, much more daunting task, obviously. And I'm looking online. Now, don't trust the Google Map feature, but it says it's claiming September of 2025.
Yeah, from what I've heard from TDOT officials is there is no set timeline on when it will be back up, to what it was. But, Transportation Commissioner Butch Ely saying in a couple of weeks, they're going to turn that westbound lane into both directions.
Well, yeah, I would still suggest that if you can go another way because it'll still be a bottleneck. It'll be a bottleneck. There's no question about that. FEMA's playing the victim. Speaking of the disaster relief that is going on, the administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that would be Deanne Criswell, wants to remind you that no matter how bad your family members might be suffering in East Tennessee, no matter how badly those family members or your fellow Southerners might be suffering in North Carolina, have you thought about how bad FEMA feels, considering that they're getting talked bad about on social media? Of course, I'm being sarcastic. I'll tell you what she had to say over the weekend. It will make your blood boil, as it did mine. On Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
1:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got a crash blocking the left lane. This is going to be the westbound South Loop downtown to go south on 65, right there in that construction. Metro Police have identified who they think was driving that suspect vehicle. A deadly hit and run over the weekend on Nolensville Pike. Witnesses telling Channel 4 it was a violent collision, a speeding car into a mother and daughter who were on an electric scooter.
That car hit them head on, and then the next thing we saw was the mom. She was in the air.
Police say a tip led to this morning's recovery of the Nissan Sentra believed to be the suspect vehicle, and now police are looking for a man by the name of Doniri Varela for questioning. 10-year-old Emily Sanchez Ramirez died. She was a fifth grader at Tusculum Elementary. Her mother remains in critical condition. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis this morning updating residents on Hurricane Milton, now a Cat 5 storm.
The executive order that I signed over the weekend also orders all disaster debris management sites and landfills to be open 24/7 in the lead up to Hurricane Milton. We had a lot of debris left from Hurricane Helene on Florida's Gulf Coast. That creates a huge hazard if you have a major hurricane hit in that area this week.
As a Cat 5, Hurricane Milton currently has 175 mile per hour winds, but it is the water when it makes landfall that everyone's worried about. They're saying this could be a historic storm surge. Right now in Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee just proclaimed today, October 7th, Remembrance Day, to reflect on 1 year since the terror attacks on the nation of Israel. Lee says, Maria and I continue to pray for and stand in unwavering solidarity with Israel and the Jewish community across the globe. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief located in Franklin. Not only a spokesperson, I'm also a client of the Dr. Gill Center. Met Dr. Gill when I first got into this community. I have now met Dr. Wendy, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V, and the rest of the incredible chiropractic care physicians at the Dr. Gill Center. They take a team approach at the Dr. Gill Center, meaning they want to serve as many people as they can with maximum efficiency and with the quality of care that they've been providing for well over 30 years now. They have so many different ways to satisfy your pain and to make sure that you live a pain-free lifestyle without having to lean on pills, without having to take needle shots to block the pain, and without having to consider surgery. That's what it's all about, right? So there are soft tissue issues, there are spinal issues, and they can do both at the Dr. Gill Center. Back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain can all be treated with no surgery and no downtime and no concern with having to take pills repeatedly. Call them today. 615-882-4838, 882-4838, and tell them that Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot of things coming at us very quickly as we started the show at 12 noon today. Obviously, we're here till 3. Brian Wilson after that with The Drive. 1:38. This is probably the latest that I've said this, but we've not done the title yet, Bill K. And I apologize to those of you who noticed. Maybe I'm shying away from it for good reason because, you know, we're on, obviously, 99.7 FM on your radio dial from Southern Kentucky to Northern Alabama and all points in between. We're also streaming on any platform really out there. If you're streaming news or information or music or podcast or whatever, type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be there. And if we're not, let us know and we'll get there. Whatever platform you use. And some use some more than others. And then, of course, there's Super Talk TV up and running, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. For you masochists in the listening audience that want to watch the proceedings of this radio show, you may do so on those platforms. And we do that every day. Now, Bell will not participate, so we call him Headless Bell. But he does give us titles. And I'm a little trepidatious to ask you what our episode 666 is entitled, but I'm going to do it anyway, Bell.
You should be, but not because of that number.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of questions that came in on the text line last Friday as to where you were.
Uh-huh.
And I was pretty honest with people about how I wasn't entirely sure and how you were playing it real coy and close to the vest.
Uh-huh.
But I did a little, investigating, and I found out. So our title represents what I found out.
Okay. You did some research.
Matt Murphy,
Uh-huh.
back from reprogramming voting machines in Atlanta.
You weren't supposed to tell him. You're not supposed to tell.
I'm sorry. You wouldn't tell me. I had to figure it out on my own.
I'm gonna
the
have
audience
to
wanted to know.
And I'm going to have to play it audible here. Okay, the more we talk about it on the radio, the more it seems like a joke and nobody will believe you. Okay, that's what we'll go with.
Okay.
You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. 9223 says 3 commercials in a row and I turn you off. I prefer to hear stories from people like Steve than all the commercials y'all run. Well, I understand that 9223, and I'm
Should we
sorry.
give him his money back?
I apologize. We do have commercials. It is the way that we are able to offer radio at no cost to you in your home, your automobile, your place of business.
Well, actually, in this day and age, everywhere, because you can take it with you on the phone.
So, I mean, we do not get grants from the federal government to offer this radio presentation. Although we are authorized by the FCC, I wish we weren't. So we generate income by providing you information about wonderful sponsors to the Matt Murphy Show or many of the other great programs on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And that becomes sort of a 3-legged stool where our advertisers help support what we do. You help support what we do. Hopefully you are inspired to support our advertisers, and round we go. So I would encourage you that if you do not pay for the presentation that you receive, someone is, and we tell you exactly who's paying for ours because you hear the commercials. That's who's paying for what we're able to provide. They don't direct content in any fashion, but that's how that works. So I understand that you were not able to hear Jeremy Faison's conversation. I hate that because it was a really good one. 41 minutes after the hour, Laura's been holding on for a long time. Laura, thank you for your patience out of Smyrna. I appreciate you.
Yes, you're welcome. I just wondered if you had seen the General Flynn YouTube information he's given out. It's called Exposing the Dark Truth About What's Happening in the Appalachia. It's amazing. So I just wondered if you'd seen it yet.
I have not.
By General Flynn. Okay. Very interesting. It's called Exposing the Dark Truth About What's Happening in Appalachia. I really, General Flynn, I believe what he says. And he's reporting like thousands of people are dead. So
wait a minute. He's reporting based on, well, I guess I would have to go watch.
Please watch. Please do. Just remember to watch it. I'd like to.
Is he there?
He has troops. He has people on the ground that's reported back to him.
All right. I'm not fussing with you. Because I'm talking.
I agree.
I'm talking to people that are in Chimney Rock. I'm talking to people that are in Fairview. I just talked to somebody that lives and is in Fairview, and they're not seeing that.
Okay, I just can't imagine the big difference. But I'm not there, and so I'm not either. I've been listening to your show all day, and I really appreciate everybody that's stepping up in the churches, and it's.
Here's what we do know. We have 227 confirmed dead. That number is going to go up by a lot because you have, for example, over 100 individuals that are currently missing, in the Asheville area, right? And so once it moves from a rescue to a recovery, those people who are presumed, who are missing will then become presumed dead. Sad to say because of the amount of flooding. There are people that will never be recovered, and I hate it. Yeah. I hate it for their families, but it's true. It's true.
Yes.
And the grand total. I don't know what the totals are in Georgia, but I know that there are, if not hundreds, there are some hundreds missing in Georgia. You add that to the at least 100 missing in just the Asheville. the total very likely could get up to 1,000 before all is said and done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he might not be that far off, General Flynn.
Right. Yes. Well, appreciate your time and
Yes, ma'am.
everything that you're saying.
I'll go give it a look. I'll go give it a look.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good,
Of course.
great.
Yeah, absolutely. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. 8602, a lady who is there at a hospital said they have over 900 bodies, and I believe her. A lady who is where? So just, yeah. 8602, you got to be a little more specific. A lady who is there at a hospital. Well, is that in North Georgia? Is that in, I mean, I just don't know where that is. Is that in Asheville? We have Jay Harper, whose son was on the front lines in Asheville, at a hospital in Asheville, and I'm not saying that. But look, I'm not doubting any story, although there are some fairly fantastical stories, and we're trying to cut through some of the rumor and the speculation and get to the truth. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about. I have no idea what the ultimate total is going to be, but we just try to get to truth as to what's happening on the ground right now. For example, in the confusion in the immediate aftermath, initially we were told that Chimney Rock just did not exist anymore, and then we were told that the federal government was keeping people out of Chimney Rock. Well, I've had people on the ground that have gone to Chimney Rock that have communicated with me, and I watched a video of a gentleman that walked into Chimney Rock, and there are buildings still there, and there are rules about what you can and cannot do for individual safety, but there are no widespread restrictions as to access to that area. 8602 says North Carolina, but I don't remember which community. That's important. So you believe, I'm not trying to get on you, 8602, but you were like, there's a lady at a hospital who said they have 900 bodies, and I believe her. What hospital? And you don't know. Well, look, good-hearted people are very concerned about the way that our brethren in North Carolina, East Tennessee, and Northern Georgia are being treated, and rightly so. Sadly, we have lost trust in the federal government. We don't believe that they have our best interest in mind, and sometimes that leads to a level of rumor and speculation that ultimately can lead to information that is not true. Sometimes it leads to information that's true that the government would prefer you not hear. So we're in a zone of time. I hope you know that I am not one to shy away from information that might feel uncomfortable to politicians. I shared some of that last week, and that got me yelled at by politicians, by the way. But that's fine. I'm willing to do that. I don't mind. I don't speak for them. I speak for the people. I try to do my best to represent the people on this radio show as opposed to the politicians or the powerful. It is the nature of what we do. We try to speak truth to power. So I'm not shying away from information that comes in. At the same time, I have to vet it. I have to filter it. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation that's come in. There are not communities where there are stacks of bodies. Not that I've seen evidence of. We were told that was Chimney Rock, and then I've now seen video of Chimney Rock, and none of it's true. Unless you believe, they hit it. So, and if you believe that, then nothing that I say contrary to what you want to believe is going to be true anyway. So I get it. I understand that there's a lot of crazy things going on. Bill is in Nashville. Hey, Bill, glad you called.
Yeah, yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hear you great.
Oh, okay. I happen to be talking to a retired police officer when you had yours on, and he's out of Missouri, and he was calling me to see what kind of help they could need. And anyway, I told him what the Steve said. So he works for a college now, and the college is in the process of rounding up winter clothes. He is going to actually deliver them to Nashville, and volunteers are going to go out to local Goodwills and that, and also try and get more. But anyway, we're not on Facebook, so I just need a contact number or whatever when they get that load here of who to get a hold of.
You want to take it to Hendersonville, North Carolina, right?
No, actually, Steve said he's going to have vehicles going from Nashville, and that way.
I misheard you. I'm sorry, I misheard you. All right, what I will do is I will put you on hold, Bill, and because Steve gave it out on air, I will instruct Bell to offer you Steve's telephone number offline, and so you can, if you've got a direct donation and you need a contact point, he'll be able to do that for you. So I can coordinate that way. Is that good for you?
Fantastic. And that way, we're not Facebook or anything, so that'll solve the problem.
No, I get it. No, I got a cell phone number for you, and we'll get that to you immediately. Thank you for your call. Gina is next. Hey, Gina, glad you called.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you're here. What's on your mind?
Well, we had went on Saturday, my daughter and her boyfriend, and we took some supplies. I'm a nurse. We just wanted to pitch in and help where we could. Found a point of contact there in Black Mountain, which was at Silverado's, and they were doing some amazing work there. As far as bodies, I didn't see actual bodies because they weren't bringing them, of course, there where we were, but it was a steady flow of people throughout the day asking for hot meals. These people are cooking. They're providing free meals to everybody that pulled up, no questions asked. The whole street down through there was just lined with access points for them to bring for drop-offs or to get meals or to get first aid care. I helped at a first aid tent there. We had a little lady that pulled up. Her 3 oxygen tanks were empty. She needed 3 more. She had no power, and somebody had generously provided, oxygen tanks. You don't even need to ask me where the supplies was coming from. I have not a clue. All I know is these people are working hard. They're there from that community. They're getting the supplies that people need through, messaging, radio, telephone calls. I have no idea, but it was amazing to see the people coming together, working, and finding what it was needed in the mountains, loading up an ATV, loading up a chainsaw, loading up an EMT, and heading to make a welfare check. They were flying helicopters in and out there on the field where I was at all day, just loading a box of insulin one time to go to get it to a higher area that was needed. It was just beautiful to see, heartbreaking to see, but just amazing to see the communities working and the people supporting them from all over everywhere.
Well, it's important to remember, and I posted something over the weekend on social media because I felt it on my heart to do so because, I get it that we want to gravitate to the problem places. We understand that, nothing this huge and this dramatic and this devastating is going to come out perfectly. There's no way that there's perfect solutions for each individual situation, and bad is bad, and we need to highlight that, and we need to make sure that we get eyeballs on it and we get light on it. But right. good is good too, and there's so many helpers, and there's so many wonderful people that are trying to assist, that are trying to do the right thing, and that are giving of their time and their energy and getting help where it is needed. So both of those things are happening simultaneous.
Oh, yes, and I know that there's outside resources coming in to help. I didn't witness any FEMA, TEMA, Red Cross, any of that. I know they're there and they're in other areas because there's so many different areas. It's not just one community. It's multiple communities from East Tennessee, up into North Carolina, so many access roads that are just not passable. So the videos that people are seeing on TikTok, Facebook, or wherever, they're an accurate representation of the devastation. And I know I heard you say earlier as far as body counts, I presume that will get more because there's so many areas and piles of debris that they've not yet been able to check. And there's just no way to clear all that. It's going to take weeks up to months. I have cousins that live in Nashville, and they said months before they had water, possibly, 3 to 6 months. So it's going to be a long, drawn-out process.
Well, yeah, and some of those areas, they're just, it's a different topography up there. It's a different world when you're getting into those hillsides and those Blue Ridge Mountains and all of that sort of thing. 53 after the hour. Thank you, Gina, for the call. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy, Efficient Heating and Cooling is, man, oh, man, they're so good at what they do. I'll say this. And they are excited to help you maintenance your heating unit for the fall and the winter season to make sure that everything's running as it properly should. And that's what it's all about, right, is to get the valuable team at Efficient Heating and Cooling to your home, to your heater. Get there, get the dust off, knock all of that off, get that cleaned and properly maintained. Make sure that everything's running as it should, because the last thing you want is for it to get cold outside, really cold outside, and then you turn that heater on, and it does not work as it should. And now you call Efficient Heating and Cooling, and they'll get it back up and running jiffy quick. But better yet, let's go ahead and stave off those costs by maintaining that unit, and it will cost you $125 or less, no matter how many units you have on your property. If it's your residence and you've got them there, they'll never charge you more than that at Efficient Heating and Cooling. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Right now, still got a crash that is blocking 65 southbound at Trinity Lane, just north of downtown. And also in Nashville, we have learned the 10-year-old girl killed in that hit-and-run crash Saturday on Nolensville Pike was a fifth grader at Tusculum Elementary. Emily Santos Ramirez and her mom were riding on an electric scooter Saturday night when they were hit head-on by a car that witnesses say was speeding. Emily died. Her mother, Laura Ramirez Gonzalez, is in critical condition. Well, police say they have since recovered the suspect vehicle thanks to a tip, and they are now looking for a man by the name of Daneri Varela for questioning. Hurricane Milton getting stronger, growing quickly from a Cat 1 storm earlier this morning to a Category 5, 175-mile-per-hour winds. It's expected to make landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast sometime late Wednesday or early Thursday, and it's got Governor Ron DeSantis worried.
My executive order requires debris landfill and dump sites to remain open 24/7 to accept debris from Hurricane Helene. We need as much of this debris picked up as possible. This creates a safety hazard, and it also will increase the damage that Milton could do with flying debris.
Right now in Tennessee, Cosby, Republican State Rep Jeremy Faison describes the kind of effort it's going to take to fully recover from Hurricane Helene.
This is a long haul. This is a marathon to get us back in East Tennessee, these 8 counties, back to where they're operating at par. And I just hope that Tennessee will remember that. I hope that when it comes time to rebuild, that we'll see people show up and say, you know what, I know how to put sheetrock up. You know what, I know how to do plumbing. I know how to do and just be willing to come up and still help.
Representative Faison says he's been told by Transportation Commissioner Butch Ely that I-40 there at the North Carolina border will be reopened as a 2-lane highway into and out of North Carolina in 2 weeks. And Governor Bill Lee proclaiming today, October 7th, Remembrance Day, to reflect on 1 year since the terror attacks on the nation of Israel. Lee says Maria and I continue to pray for and stand in unwavering solidarity with Israel and the Jewish community across the globe. And in our nation's capital,
we're now going to light the Yorkshire candle, the memorial candle, and then observe a moment of silence.
That's Rabbi Aaron Alexander in the Blue Room of the White House, joined by President Biden and the First Lady today. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey friends, Matt Murphy here, and I've got some exciting news from our friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. You know, they're a team of audiology doctors, are always committed to finding the best and most proven technologies that can help patients hear better, and their most recent hearing device is no exception. Their leadership team attended the launch of a revolutionary new hearing aid called the Phonak Sphere, which is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there's a lot of background noise, extensive background noise. With a computer chip completely dedicated to address speech in noise, the Phonak Sphere will help you out when a dinner party is at a noisy restaurant. Maybe you're at a ball game, attending a sporting event, or you're at a cocktail party with friends or clients. If you're having difficulty hearing because of background noise, then get with the gang at the Brentwood Hearing Center and find out more about the Phonak Sphere or any of their incredible hearing device technology. Schedule your demonstration today by giving them a call at 615-377-0420, 377-0420, or go to BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing for a better life. Indeed, it's hour number 3 already, flying by this Monday edition, October 7, 2024. Thank you for being around with us. 29 days to go before Election Day is here, although many people across many different states are already voting. Vote early, then vote often, they say. It's Locks for Trump Day 219. Speaking of Donald Trump, he was on the campaign trail over the weekend with Elon Musk and others back to the scene of the attempted crime, the scene of the assassination attempt, Butler, Pennsylvania. It was an incredible scene. I'm certain that most of you have seen videos of the layout. It was an incredible amount of people. They, I think, had to ultimately limit the amount of people that were on site as a result of the number of people that wanted to be there and witness Donald Trump coming back to Butler, Pennsylvania. It was emotional. Obviously, the family of the fallen firefighter was there. Donald Trump had an emotional moment where he greeted them behind the stage. He hugged them, all of them, the entire family of those who lost their lives, those that lost their lives in Butler, Pennsylvania that day. So we've got lots to say about that. Only 29 days to go before America will make a decision. And I have a difficult time believing that we're going to, and I want to focus on this at least partially in the last hour. And you're always welcome to change the direction of the conversation. I love getting your telephone calls at 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. You can also hit us up on the membersnutrition.com super text line at that same number and get your thoughts in here. So a year ago, I was trying to imagine last evening, as I was gathering stories and whatnot together for the show today, what we would have done had there been widespread demonstrations of support on September 11th, 2002 in America. What would we have done as a nation and as a people? Because if you do the math, and I understand that the reports vary from between 1,200 to 1,400 individuals that lost their lives in Israel, but if you do the math, that is very much well in excess. It would be along the lines of 20,000 Americans losing their lives, and I might be shortchanging that. It might be more like 30,000 because I can do no math, right? I mean, comparatively speaking, the amount of Israeli people that died on October 7th is greater than the amount of people that died versus the total population here in the United States of America per capita. It was a horrific day worldwide. And it should be wildly and universally condemned. Yet I'm watching on monitor number 2 here in our palatial studios right off of Music Row, downtown Nashville, where there are marches in the streets of New York City going on right now. And these marches are not to support. Y'all know that there are still almost 100 people being held hostage, right? 100 days later, 365 days later, a year later, there are 97 people that remain hostages. And it feels increasingly like, with Biden missing, with Kamala Harris, she gave an interview that is to air in full tonight on 60 Minutes, and they've released excerpts of the interview. And this woman can't even string a sentence together when asked about Israel.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Y'all understand that? She was also asked if Netanyahu was our ally, and she refused to say that Benjamin Netanyahu was our ally. But then she was, I just want to play it one more time. Does anybody understand the answer? So he's saying, hey, we want certain things to happen, yada, yada, yada. But there are still 100 people, including many, I think there's like 7 Americans that are still being held hostage. I want you to understand that in Israel, why did this happen the way that it happened, and why did it happen in the fashion that it happened? It was because the Middle East was going to see continued stabilization. Y'all know that Saudi Arabia was getting ready to normalize further relations with the state of Israel, and that the Iranians couldn't have that. The Iranians, which the mullahs have called for the elimination of Israel from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. So Hamas and Hezbollah, strong-arm bully terrorist agents of the Iranians, couldn't have normalized relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And as a result, they had to do something. Because on October 6th, Saudi Arabia was just about to normalize relations with the Jewish state. Something that was unthinkable for the Iranians, and so act they did. This pact with the Saudi Arabians would include trade, tourism, and security. It would expand the Abraham Accords forged under Donald Trump. It would bolster regional alliances between Israel and Saudi Arabia. It's a big deal. And it would ultimately isolate Iran to the point where they would continue to grow in insignificance. And so as a result, October 7th happened. Thousands of Hamas terrorists crossed the border from Gaza and slaughtered 1,200 Israeli citizens, most of them citizens, civilians, including women and children. They raped and they tortured them, including entire families. A year ago, terrorists, I'm not saying this, well, no, I take it back. I kind of am saying this to shock you. They burned people alive. Whatever anger or whatever misplaced feelings you have about the situation involving the Palestinians and the Israelis, they burned people alive after raping them and torturing them. As we were told, a week ago or so, during our visit with our Israeli citizen friend, whose name, for whatever reason, I can't remember right now. I'll get it in a second.
Ahmet?
Ahmet?
I think it was Ahmet.
I don't think that. Well, one way or the other. Our beautiful friend. Maybe it was. I can't remember. She said that They used streaming services from the family members themselves so as the family members, their friend group, would see them get killed. And among the casualties was that Saudi Arabian agreement. And I admit that it became kind of a casualty of memory as well for me until this anniversary came up. And I read there was an article over the weekend that I read that reminded me that we were about to see relations grow between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and Iran could not have it. And they would not have it. Soon after October 7th, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put talks on hold with Israel, insisted any deal must include a pathway to a separate Palestinian state. The freeze and normalization efforts, according to the New York Post, is one but a sign of a dramatically changed world. The most obvious is that Israel flattened much of Gaza while destroying Hamas as a fighting force. And yet we have almost 100 hostages that remain in Hamas custody a year later. And I'm looking, and these are anti-Israel protests that are going on the streets of New York City. And I wonder to myself, would we put up with this if we had pro-Al-Qaeda, pro-terrorist organized movements in the streets? Pro-Osama bin Laden? Well, one could easily answer, well, Murphy, we're not Israel. But Americans have been taken hostage as well. Americans have been killed as well. This is not an attack solely on Israel. It is an attack on any pushback on this furtherance of radical Muslim culture that necessitates that you either convert or kill the infidel.
Matt, her name was Ashrit Sabag.
Ashrit Sabag. Thank you.
Lovely woman.
Yeah, she was a great woman. I need to put up the picture of her in the football helmet. It's a great picture. After our interview, we were talking in the hallway, and there was a football helmet, and we convinced her to put on she didn't know much about football, but she put on the football helmet. It's pretty good.
She can probably talk some soccer with you, though.
I guarantee she can. So a year later, I don't know what else to say about it except that it is a shame that we have a presidential candidate.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you again.
Two of them. We have a presidential candidate that doesn't seem to be able to suggest that Israel is our friend, and then they answer a question this way.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen.
So we have worked alongside them, and you've seen, she said nothing. Nothing. I mean, we're continuing to work. In the meantime, she was asked by 60 Minutes about how she's going to, this is actually a pretty good exchange. And I don't know the reporter on 60 Minutes. His first name's Bill because she just said it, but I've seen him plenty of times on there, but I don't know any of their names. I don't watch enough. By the way, this is the same crew that asked Donald Trump if he would sit down for an interview, and Donald Trump said, I've done plenty of interviews with 60 Minutes, and they've never been fair. No. He turned them down. Remember the Leslie Stahl interview that they deceptively edited, and they got caught editing it to make Trump sound bad? And Donald Trump said, no, I'm done with you people. But they actually pressed Kamala Harris on how she's going to pay for all of this magic stuff she wants to do if she becomes president, despite the fact that she's already vice president. Here's what she said.
My plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses.
So, I mean, congratulations to the reporters. See, it is like we're trying to live in the real world here. How are you going to get this through Congress? Oh, well, they quietly they like it. Well, they're not going to vote for it, ma'am. Because they understand what happens when you tax corporations. When you go up from a 21% tax rate to a 35% tax rate, 21% tax rate currently being what the tax rate is. Now, Donald Trump wants to lower those tax rates to 15% for companies that manufacture right here in the United States of America, which would greatly benefit our American economy. What she would do would tank the American economy. And how are you going to make it happen? Oh, well, we'll make it happen. Well, how? Oh, magic. Magic and rainbows and unicorn farts, and everything will be fine. Super Talk 99.7 WTN is 22 after the hour. We're kind of transitioning our pest season, right? The mosquitoes are going away, going back to hell where they came from. And all of the summer bugs are being replaced by the fall bugs. And you know what bugs do? They pack up their stuff from outside and they try to move inside. That's what they do. Whether they're stink bugs or roaches or rodents, mice and rats and whatnot. Or, of course, there's the ever-present termite. That is insatiable. They want to destroy your home and by extension, destroy your family with it. Termite protection is available for you at U.S. Pest. They're great people over at U.S. Pest. J.K., Erica, and the rest of the team over there are good folks. The purpose of pest control is simple. It's to keep the bugs who want to get in out, to keep them off your property. Go somewhere else with all of that nonsense. Full-service pest control available. Termite protection available. Crawl space service available for you at U.S. Pest. If you are unsatisfied with your current pest provider, or if you do not currently have a pest provider, may I encourage you to call U.S. Pest, allow them to come out for a free home inspection today. They're not going to pressure you about anything. On my honor, they're not going to pressure you about anything, but they will ask that you're up to snuff on your pest protection, and if you're not, they'll ask for your business. 590-1260. That's 590-1260 to schedule that inspection, or go to uspest.com. That's uspest.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Metro Police say a tip has provided a needed break in the investigation of a fifth grader's traffic death. That and more coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It is 2:26 right now, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, discussing, and you're invited to be in on the conversation, discussing the recent interview with Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes. That full interview is expected to air tonight. She didn't make a lot of sense when referring to our relationship with Israel and discussing the dramatic one-year anniversary of the attacks, the assault on Israel. And my goodness gracious, I just go back to it. I cannot imagine what we would do. I cannot imagine that we would put up with the level of anti-Israel protests that are going on. Were they anti-American protests after 9/11 in our country? And I understand that we have a right to protest. I understand that the Constitution guarantees that we have a right to make our voices heard. And I would not suspend that right, even for the most nasty of purposes, because that's what it's there for. It's there to protect dangerous speech or even speech that's unpopular. But I just can't imagine as communities we would put up with some of the nonsense that I'm seeing going on our cameras today. Speaking of nonsense, campaign 2024 is obviously waning. We only have 9 more days before the votes will begin to be counted, and there are separations to be noted in several different states, to include Pennsylvania and others. I've broken this down a lot of different ways, and I don't do a lot of analysis on polling because I think the most important poll happens on November 5th. I think that, sadly, many polls are done to drive news narratives as opposed to – polls are supposed to be a part of the news. They're not supposed to drive the news. And polling was at one point done to give us that snapshot in time. And once again, I'm not knocking it. It is what it is. I mean, it's just the world that we live in. There are 187 different polling agencies. But sadly, some of these – if this is the way that I look at it, some will disagree, and that's fine. If it has an alphabet soup name in it, if it's got ABC or CBS or NBC involved in the poll, I don't buy into the poll whatsoever. I would need to see the metrics in order to even worry with it because I believe that they are attempting to drive headlines. And they will do. They have demonstrated that they are willing to omit. Why wouldn't they do that in their polls? If they're willing to deceptively edit. Let's take, for example, CBS and 60 Minutes. 4 years ago, Leslie Stahl did an interview with Donald Trump. They deceptively edited that interview to make Donald Trump look bad for their viewers. If they're willing to do that for an interview, why wouldn't they do that with a poll? Well, of course they will. Well, what's the purpose for that? To motivate or demotivate depending on the outcome of the poll. That's what the purpose is. So I don't do a lot of this because I want you motivated beyond any polling data. I want you motivated because of the issues involved and the ramifications of the vote. Let me tell you something. If Kamala Harris is our president of the United States of America, it is possible that we break our alliance with Israel over what is happening regarding Israel attempting to protect themselves and to maintain political sovereignty, to very likely defend their own lives. It's possible that that relationship is severed irreparably. Well, what does that matter? I mean, now some of you might not see the importance of the relationship between America and Israel, and I understand that. One way or the other, I've long said that everything comes down to 5 states and about 150,000, 200,000 votes. Those 5 states are Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. I say that feeling like North Carolina is solidly red, but I've actually, over the weekend, I realized that it's really just the one. Now, I'm not here to demotivate anyone in any state, but it's really just Pennsylvania. I believe 30 days out, 29 days out, that Pennsylvania, which way Pennsylvania goes, will decide who is the next president of the United States. Now, there are plenty of ways that I could do the math that would cut it the other way. I believe that if Pennsylvania goes for Trump, then you're going to see North Carolina and Georgia go for Trump. You're going to see Arizona go for Trump. And you might even see Michigan go for Trump. And you might see a landslide at that point. But even if Michigan doesn't, even if, Arizona does, Pennsylvania goes for Trump and Trump wins. Pennsylvania goes for Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris is going to win. I'm sad to note, but I believe that's true. Because I don't think we've got Wisconsin. And I don't think we're going to get them. 31 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Checking traffic. Still got that crash 24 eastbound at Shelby Avenue. That's going to be the East Loop downtown eastbound. Also showing 65 southbound at Trinity Lane. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Metro Police have recovered the suspect vehicle from the hit-and-run crash that killed a 10-year-old girl, critically injuring her mother. They've also identified a man they want to question. His name is Donnery Varela. 10-year-old Emily Sanchez Ramirez and her mother were riding an electric scooter Saturday on Nolensville Pike when they were hit head-on by what witnesses described as a speeding car. Emily died. She was a fifth grader at Tusculum Elementary School. Her mother is in critical condition. Middle East update. Israel says it will soon launch operations on Lebanon's southern coast, and they're warning residents stay off the beaches. Hurricane Milton has reached Cat 5 status, but may weaken to a Cat 4 or Cat 3 by the time it makes landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. Still, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis very worried about debris left over from Hurricane Helene.
My executive order requires debris landfill and dump sites to remain open 24/7 to accept debris from Hurricane Helene. We need as much of this debris picked up as possible. This creates a safety hazard, and it also will increase the damage that Milton could do with flying debris.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Friends, Tennessee Men's Clinic wants to talk with you, particularly you men in the listening audience. Let's talk, gentlemen. If you're middle-aged and you've lost an edge to your energy level, to your work ethic, maybe you've lost the edge in the bedroom. Well, I'm not here to get into your bedroom business, but I am here to tell you that there are solutions available for you at the Tennessee Men's Clinic that you need to check out. Let's handle this. That's what we do, man. Let's handle our business by contacting the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They are the experts when it comes to energy. They're the experts when it comes to T levels, checking those things and making sure that you're right where you're supposed to be. I mean, a lot of men, we don't check our numbers. And by doing that, we kind of whistle past the graveyard to a certain degree on blood pressure or cholesterol or T level. And if you're not checking your numbers, you need to know what's going on inside of your body to understand why you're feeling less energy, less motivation, less drive. If it's affecting your intimacy, we need to handle that. Gentlemen, let's do it by calling the Tennessee Men's Clinic today. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to find out more information or make the discreet telephone call to 615-208-9090. Two locations to serve you. One's in Franklin, the other in Midtown. It's 615-208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to spend a moment talking about things that you love, things in the kitchen, things to eat. Let's talk about Savory Spice. They do a great job of improving those products with their incredible spice game at Savory Spice. Why not head on out to 2 locations? One's in L&L Market in Nashville, just off of Charlotte Pike. The other in Franklin, off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. You smell it before you see it, because you smell it right as you walk through the door. And you can sample any and all of the spices that they have available. They've got the Spice and Easy line of products, which is pretty cool. Those things make it so easy to cook just about anything imaginable, whether it's a dip or a soup, or whether it's a delicious dish that you can put in the crock pot and leave all day and come home to a wonderful aroma and a wonderful dinner. It's all right there at Savory Spice. They have tailgating tips for you at Savory Spice, and they've got pumpkin pie spice in stock and ready to go for the fall season. It's Savory Spice. Once again, 2 locations, Nashville and Franklin. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Savory Spice. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. Thank you for being here. We've got another 20 minutes to go before we hand off to Brian Wilson in the drive. We'll check in with Brian a little before the drive officially begins, see what's happening today. Obviously, October 7th, the terrorist attack is remembered as a war rages in the Middle East, an all-out war, and we still have hostages, not just Israeli, but American hostages are still being held in captivity. It is sadly something that the mainstream media simply chooses not to mention. You know, I mean, if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't think that they were there, but they are. The mainstream media doesn't talk about it. And man, oh man, they dropped that Doug Emhoff story like a hot potato too, didn't they? I bet they dropped that Doug Emhoff story so quickly you never saw it. Y'all know what I'm talking about? There is a credible and, I mean, multiple different sources have backed up a report that Doug Emhoff physically assaulted an ex-girlfriend of his outside of a club. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer. And nobody in the media, I mean, now, once again, you can make the case, and you might want to, if you're a Kamala Harris supporter, that this doesn't have anything to do with anything. But just ask yourself, in a way to figure out if you're being duped, if the shoe was on the other foot, if the media would be treating this story the same. And I think you know the answer. And then there's this. And I wanted to save and speak to this right at the end of the show. Tom Cotton was made an appearance on one of the weekend talking head shows. I think this one was Meet the Press. And Tom Cotton was asked by the interviewer about the myth. I think this was, what's her name, Welker. The myth that FEMA has misdirected money from people who need it to migrants, they call it. Illegal aliens, we call it. And Tom Cotton smacked this around. Here's a great minute of audio from Tom Cotton on Meet the Press.
My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true?
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on migrants. Now, I understand some people say they're separate funds, but we just passed a short-term spending bill. It's very common for the administration to come and ask for permission to move money between funds, especially to prepare for emergencies. And second, I would note that this administration seems to have no problem finding money when they want to spend it on their priorities. When they need hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for graduate students in gender studies programs, they somehow find it. When it's trying to get helicopters to deliver food and water and cellular service and life-saving medicine into these mountain valleys, they somehow can't seem to find the money.
You know that there's some truth-telling going on these liberal networks when a Republican answers in a way that Kristen Welker didn't like, because she immediately starts trying to interrupt his answer. The premise of her question was, well, these things are false and we all know it. Don't we need to stop spreading false information? You know, like that FEMA money wasn't moved to migrants. So this is the creative math that goes on in Washington, D.C., and it's something that you need to – I think you fundamentally understand it, right? Mayorkas poor-mouthed FEMA last week and said, we don't have any more money. And people that pay attention to these types of things said, wait a minute. 6 months ago, you were using money out of the FEMA pot in order to pay for emergency services for migrant workers or migrant individuals that were coming across the border illegally. And so now you have all of these fact-checking organizations that run around attempting to fact-check this as false. Now, here's how they get away with doing that. Because FEMA moved, Tom Cotton just said it. They will move the money as necessary, and they will get approval to move the money, or they'll do it through statutory manipulation when they want to get something done. The government silos its money when it's convenient for the government to silo its money. And so they suggest this money, this silo is empty and this silo is full, but this silo is dedicated to something else, so we can't move that money over there. You need to give us more money on this issue, like on FEMA. And when someone rightly points out, well, why is the FEMA money empty? Is it possible because you were moving money around when we did not have a natural disaster and you were using it for other purposes that would not have been funded otherwise by Congress? Which is exactly what they were doing with the illegal immigrants coming into this country. They were declaring it an emergency situation, funneling money from one silo to the next when it was convenient for them. And now when it's not convenient for them, oh, no. FEMA money was never used for that because there's different silos of money. It creates these silos of cash when it wants, and it commingles the money when it wants. I've never seen anything like it in my life. There's a large pool of money, like imagine a pool of water. And they take over a big old bucket of water, and then they dump that bucket of water in, and it washes around, and you really don't know what money was already there and what money's not, what water was already there and what water wasn't. And then they pull that bucket of water out, and they pretend like it's the same bucket of water. Or conversely, they do it specifically to hide the money, and then when they pull the money out, you can't say, hey, you got that money from that bucket. Oh, no, we didn't. We got it from another part of the pool. We give money for American emergencies to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, not to redirect it to the Department of Homeland Security so that the Department of Homeland Security can spend the billions of dollars on migrants. We know that that's happening. And kudos to Tom Cotton. It deserves one more listen.
My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true?
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on migrants. Now, I understand some people say they're separate funds, but we just passed a short-term spending bill. It's very common for the administration to come and ask for permission to move money between funds, especially to prepare for emergencies. And second, I would note that this administration seems to have no problem finding money when they want to spend it on their priorities. When they need hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for graduate students in gender studies programs, they somehow find it. When it's trying to get helicopters to deliver food and water and cellular service and life-saving medicine into these mountain valleys, they somehow can't seem to find the money.
That is exactly right, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, and kudos for saying so. He's absolutely 100% correct. But I promise you, over the next month or so, you will see an effort on the part of the Democrats to demand more FEMA funding for these areas that have been affected. Now, I'm not suggesting these folks don't need to be made whole in some fashion. I'm not suggesting that they don't need the help. But you know what? We seem to be doing a pretty good job of that ourselves. I'm not saying a perfect job, but a pretty good job of that ourselves. Sadly, instead of keeping the money at home, we send it to D.C., where for every dollar that we send up there, we maybe get 40% back. We maybe get 40 cents back on every dollar, or 50. I don't know what the exact figure is. But they take a cut, and you never get the amount of money back from the federal government because of all of the bureaucracy that's involved, and everybody's got to take a little piece of the pie instead of keeping that money home and maximizing each of those dollars in a way that we could through local agencies, state agencies, and volunteerism. And charitable donations, charitable giving. When we come back, I will remind you of ways that you can give, primarily to Steve Antle, who is over in Fairview. We'll remind you of that charity location coming up in just a moment, and check in with Brian Wilson next. It's 49 after, actually 48 after on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So much going on in the news today. I've not gotten to Tim Wall's disastrous interview with Shannon Bream on Fox News. I don't want to speak for Brian Wilson, but I'm certain that he's aware of it. I mean, it was an absolute destruction on the part of Shannon Bream, and there's probably a reason that Tim Walls is not doing a lot of these, dare we say, combative interviews. Real quick, I want to read a couple of headlines, though, just to finish this thought about FEMA and how the shell game works and they move their money around. Federal Emergency Management Agency. Headline, Department of Homeland Security announces $380 million in additional funding to communities receiving migrants. That was last year. Federal Emergency Management Agency. Headline, Department of Homeland Security announces distribution of more than $77 million in congressional funding for communities receiving migrants. That was 2 years ago. Federal Emergency Management Agency. Headline, Department of Homeland Security announces $300 million in direct funding to communities receiving migrants and $340 million for a new competitive awards process. Politico, New York City gets $104.6 million from FEMA for asylum seekers. FEMA awards $110 million to the emergency food and shelter programs to assist migrants. All of these happening in the last 2.5 years under the Biden administration. Now they say that FEMA's money has not run out because of migrants. Let's talk to Brian Wilson for a moment about what's going down on the drive this afternoon. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
It is maddening, isn't it? I came up with a couple of interesting numbers here. We just sent $22.8 billion to Israel, $52 billion to Ukraine, and $66 billion on illegals in this country. And yet, if you have a need in North Carolina right now, the best you're going to get is a $750 check that you probably can't cash because the bank is closed.
Unbelievable.
From FEMA. And it's maddening. It absolutely is maddening what's going on there. And, this little shell game they play in Washington, you're absolutely right about this. All they have to do is ask for congressional authority to move money around. And apparently they're sitting on billions of dollars that haven't been used. So, all of this discussion of, this hyperventilating, Congress needs to come back and give us more money. We just gave them $20 billion.
Right.
And I don't know. It really, forget the shell game. It's about priorities and where you put your priorities. And if we've got the priorities to send money to Israel and Ukraine and to spend $66 billion on illegals, we've got the money that we need. We certainly should have the money we need to take care of people in this country who are facing a dire need. Just a real quick question, a real quick story.
Yeah.
I ran into Marsha Blackburn over the weekend, social event. She's been to East Tennessee 2 or 3 times, and she tells me that it wasn't until last Saturday that the White House reached out to the mayors in the counties in East Tennessee that have been impacted by
this past Saturday.
This past Saturday, and it wouldn't have happened had she not, just about had to go down there and threaten a young man with bodily harm if they didn't get on the phone and talk to these people. That's the first contact that they had from FEMA.
Ridiculous.
The 10 mayors of East Tennessee who were impacted by this.
Well, there's no political advantage to it. I wish that it weren't so cold and calculated like this, but I feel like they don't see the political advantage to making this a priority, sadly. And apparently all of their eggs are in the Kamala Harris get her elected basket, and they're not really worried about governing the people that they promised to protect and to serve.
Well, what's really shocking about that, in my mind, and I was talking about this earlier with some guys that we have coffee in the morning here in Watertown. We solve the world's problems. and I was talking to my friends, and I said, look, here's the thing. They need to have a good outcome in North Carolina. And they know that they need to have a good outcome because it's an election year and that's a battleground state, and they're still blowing it. They're just not competent.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I assume that's a big portion of the show today. What else is going on, Brian?
Well, other than that, we've got, we got to talk about Vandy. We have to talk about 2024. Yes. And I've got a great woke segment coming up about woke news. You're not going to believe some of this stuff.
Love it. There's Brian Wilson. He's on the way next with The Drive from 3 until 7 o'clock with Ken Weaver's newscast interspersed all in between. And speaking of Ken Weaver, here he comes with the news on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And until next time, folks, tomorrow at high noon, hug your loved ones, everybody. So long.